Hey everyone, I just have one full and final crit DD Blood Mage guide for you. Starting off here, I'm going to just show a couple boss kills in a Breach in tier 15 maps. This first kill is a +0 boss, and the next one's a +2 difficulty boss from the Atlas nodes. And then the Breach is just a tier 15 map as well, just showing some of the gameplay. After this, I'm going to go through all the skills, passives, gear, everything you need to know. Okay, getting into the build guide. I'm going to start off with how the build works. I'm going to walk you through exactly the mechanics of the build, how it scales, and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty much 1 to 2 button build. You're going to DD your own minions on single target. You can just DD them. How, you may ask? I know there's a big question in the other videos. It is the skill gem sacrifice. It requires 60 spirit, but when it's active, it allows your undead reviving minions, so any skeletal minion, to be used in place of corpses for your skills. So we can now use DD on our skeletons. Now normally without specific modifiers they would die right away, and it's kind of bad and frustrating to play. We need to stack as much corpses aren't consumed when used as possible, and we get 75%. 75% by 25 on the tree, 25% chance not to destroy corpses when consuming corpses. Another 25% on the tree, 15% here, and then 5 and 5. And then we use the support gem as well. We use the support gem corpse conservation to get the last 25%. That gives our minions 75% chance not to be consumed. You can still get unlucky and they will die right away. You can get very lucky and they won't die at all, and you can just keep going. It is one of the jankier parts of the build, but that is how we do damage on single target, and they stay alive. If you do kill all your minions, they will respawn after the last one dies. The counter restarts in 10 seconds. You can get revive time if you feel like the revive is too long. You could also fit in a, I don't have one, but a cleric to respawn your minions if you have enough spirit. We are pretty tight on spirit in this build. But if you can get more minions, makes it more consistent. A cleric can help, or you can go down to warriors, which have less health, but you can get more of for the same amount of spirit. So, for how our build scales, if we read Detonate Dead, it says it deals physical damage equal to 20% of the corpse's maximum life. Since we're using our own minions, getting minion life is a great way to scale specifically our single target, as well as crit, because we're a blood mage, it supports crit, and some physical damage on the tree because they're in convenient locations, and also scales the fizz damage that comes from the Detonate Dead. One last thing is getting chance to bleed. Since we're doing such gigantic fizz hits with our crits, the bleed can be super useful, especially when your minions die, like in that second boss clip at the beginning of the video. All my minions died, but I still did about half the boss's HP with the bleed, even though I was unlucky with my corpse conservation. One thing to note is we want to keep Detonate Dead as low level as possible, and that's because it only scales the fire damage and the mana cost. We don't care about the fire damage at all, and the mana cost, keeping low is good because it hits our health as well. I have higher level ones just because I level them up too late to get others, but if you can keep them low, that is ideal. Alright, just going over all the gems. We'll start at the top with our weapon gems. We actually don't use 3 of the 4 of these. Volatile Dead, never used because we're using DD instead. Purity of Ice affects our allies, don't really care. But Malice is actually good off our single target Scepter. You could have it on both, I just have it on one. Being around enemies causes them to be crit more. The longer you're there, they get a stacking flat crit buff against them. It's actually quite good in single target. Life Remnants is our Ascendancy. You want to have this, it's on at all times. I link it to Cannibalism with the Spirit, but pick up your orbs, get overflowed life so you crit more. Detonate Dead, of course. Low level gems, as I said. I have an AoE and a single target setup. For my AoE setup, I have Spell Echo, Ambush, Corpse Conservation, and Magnified Effect. I think Spell Echo is better than Spell Cascade. I've tested both. I prefer Spell Echo. You can try both, do whatever one you like. They're both good for clear. For a 5 or a 6 link option, you could do Spell Cascade as well as Spell Echo. You could do Bludgeon to stun the enemies more, just to be defensive. Unleash, I haven't tested, but I bet it works decent. Or Lacerate to just finish off mobs that you don't one-shot with bleeds. Single target. This you can actually switch with Corpse Conservation if you're on like a tanky boss, because you don't want your guys dying. You only have the one support gem, so you could just do a swap. Corpse Conservation, Brutality, Conk Effect, and Minion Pact. This will only work when you actually have another minion alive, but it is 40% more damage, and our guys have so much HP, taking our HP from them isn't that big of a deal. For 6 link on this, you could do also Lacerate to have more consistent bleeds. Deep Cuts, I haven't tested too much, but it should make the bleed bigger, but the hit smaller. Mess around with it. You could just put in Considered Casting. I actually don't know if this fully works. It's a spell hit. I can get into that later, but PoE 1 versus PoE 2 differences. And that's it. Pretty much you have your single target where you're just trying to scale the hit as much as you can with more damage multipliers, and the AoE setup. Get as much AoE as you can. Ambush for the clear, so you one-shot all those mobs. Onto the brutes. This is our big damage dealers. I can show you my life of my brutes here is 39k in my AoE setup. And that comes from Meat Shield, which is 50% more max life. Quality your brute for 20% more max life. That's very important to have it qualityed. Also quality your deads for AoE. Minion Mastery +1 gems. Minion gems. Physical Mastery +1 physical gems. And Elemental Army, this you could change for a lot of different things. The +1 gems give more life, which is amazing. I do this just so my minions don't die on bosses, but you can do Cull, which gives you, what, 5 to 10% more single target, technically, if your minions hit them. You could do Rupture, which causes your minions, if they're stunned, to cause it to aggravate, which could be good. But put whatever you want in these last 2 slots. Not that important. The big ones are these 3. These will give you the most damage. Grim Feast, this is purely defensive. It costs 30 spirit. Definitely worth running, because it also gets levels from our everything else we use. So our minions, it has the minion tag on it, so it gets levels. You get 500 energy shield, or I do at least, every time I pick up one of the blue little wisps, which does happen in boss fights when our minion dies sometimes. Not super consistent, but for clear, it's great. It overflows you just like our health to double our energy shield, which gives us just about, what, 11.6k energy shield and 6.6k life. Fully overflowed both. A ton of effective HP. Super worth running. No supports because they cost spirit and we don't have enough. Sacrifice, this makes the build work for single target and clear. For clear, it allows us to kill the first mob before we start deeding the mobs and chaining pack to pack, but single target, without it, you do no damage really, so it's required. You can quality it. It is good quality. It was bugged, but they fixed it. It'll make the minions revive faster. Mine's not quality, but I should. But prioritize Skeletal Brute first, then your DDs for AoE, and then I would do Sacrifice. And then Vuln, I have Curse Ground and Focus Curse. This reduces the enemy's armor, which we do physical damage. So I actually don't use it that much, but it is good to put on them. It helps our damage. But pretty much a one-button build. One ability that's not in the gems that we do use is new in PoE 2. The Direct Minions. I have it set to middle click. It kind of hurts the hand. It kind of sucks. Find what works for you. You can do right click, left click, and deal some of the other jank, but this is part of the jank of the build. Direct your minions around, and they will run where you want. So you can keep them always ahead of you while you're mapping and DD them. And you can even DD them, especially with Spell Echo, and then move them. Or because he died, but unlucky. But they will move while DDing, and you can actually get some great clear with it. So use your direct minions, and that's it for the abilities. Alright, almost done here. Just quickly going over the skill tree. I'm not going to spend too much time because we pick up pretty much the same stuff. We pick up physical damage for scaling the DD, crit chance, crit damage to scale our crits, ES to make us tankier, and minion life. So this is 20% max life, 40%. And area effect for AoE setup. So we get a bunch of AoE to make our DD as big as possible for clear. On weapon swap 1 I do, and then weapon swap 2 I take just more crit and more ES. Going to the Ascendancy quickly, we have to take this node, but it's good. It doubles our life and our mana costs are low, so it doesn't have that big of a downside. I take increased crit damage per 40 life. For Genesis, 25% of hits are over time instead of upfront. Sorry, I read that weird. And then I actually switched from base crit to energy shield from equipped body armor as extra life. I like it. It gives us more crit damage. It's more inconsistent damage because our crit chance is lower. But we're tankier and we still do gain some damage. I think it's a win. Do whatever you want though. This is definitely more damage focused. And this is tankier focused. Okay, going to the gear. We'll start with the uniques. There's only 2 of them that I think are... They're not required. One is pretty required. The other one is definitely optional, but very nice. And that is this wand, the volatile wand. I'm not going to try to say the name, but the mod, important one, is 25% chance to not destroy corpses when consuming corpses. Makes the build way more consistent. Not needed, but I think having any chance less than 75% makes it feel pretty bad. But you might be able to scale it and do that with using warriors and having more of them, or clerics to res your minions. The other unique is Itsiri's Disdain Gold Circlet. The gain % maximum life is extra the gain 32% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield note. The gain 32% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield modifier is very strong for us. We have a lot of base HP and are incentivized to take it already with our Ascendancy. So doing this just gives us more ES. The ES protects our health, so we can keep our crit damage higher. It's a very good helmet. The rest of the mods kind of suck, and it has no res, but I think it's worth it. You could get a very high ES helmet, and it could be just as good with res or minion levels for damage. If you want damage, get one with minion levels and ES. Going on to the rares, pretty much, except for the neck and the scepter, they are all res life ES gear. So looking at the neck, I do have ES on it as well, and life. Those are still high priority stats, and res. But I have +2 to all minion skills. You can get +3 in this slot. That's more damage, crit damage, damage. You don't need too much of the other things. Just life, minion level, res if you can. The others are a bonus. For the anoint, I currently am anointing Vulgar Methods, 10 to strength, 35 increased critical strike chance. It's cheap to anoint. It's good because we need strength to wear our scepter, and the crit chance is also nice. I looked into anointing this node here, Ancient Aegis, for more energy shield from the equipped body armor. It's bugged right now. It doesn't do anything at all, so don't do what I did and waste your oils. But I think it might be a good option for defense. I was going to test if the increased ES then gives us more life because of our Ascendancy. I assume it doesn't, but I'll hopefully test that when the node is working. The Scepter is the other place we get some damage in our gear. +4 to all minion skill gems. You can get up to 5, and minions have increased maximum life. The Scepter is also where we get our Spirit to make our minions. Scepters don't have inherent defense like energy shield, armor, or evasion. They have Spirit, and then you can roll increased Spirit on it, and you can quality it for even more Spirit. So mine only has a 28% Spirit roll, and I get 154 more Spirit, which gives me a total of 254. You get 100 from the campaign, 30 in Act 1, 30 in Act 3, and then in Act 3 again in the swamp you get another 40. The implicit on the Scepter, Malice, is good for single target. It just gives us more crit the longer we're around the mob. All the other implicits and skills I don't think are great on the weapons for us. They're kind of all useless. The minion skill gems is huge, and the life is big. Boots, move speed, life, int, and res. We actually do need to get some intelligence on gear and strength. Or strength, I guess. Because currently I have a level 19 brute, and I'm barely making the intelligence check for it. And that's with some int on my gear. So you need some strength for your scepter because it requires 45, and I need 191 int at the moment, so I'm getting some on my. But definitely upgrade these boots. More ES, more res. Chaos res is a thing I don't have right now that you should try to get. But you do need some attribute. I also have some intelligence on this ring. 2 dead stat prefixes with cold damage to attacks and fire damage. The int is low rolled, but nice, and then a bunch of res. This is the res ring, res in life. My chest is just as much energy shield as I can get. I had a better one and corrupted it, and it got worse. But as much life as you can, as much ES as you can, and as much res as you can on your chest. You got to try to get as much res in anywhere you can, because it can be hard to cap, especially with a couple pieces that get no res, like our weapons and helmet. Another life and res ring. You want as much life res as you can. That's about it. This fixes my fire res, so it's a little hard to replace. Gloves, same thing. And as much energy shield, life, and res as you can get. And same thing with boots. Or belt, sorry. You should probably, with the patch coming, get another charm slot. It'll help out a lot, because for charms, getting frozen is the way I die the most, pretty much. If I had a second slot, I would probably do chaos to get some chaos res when I'm hit. And then if I had a third one, I'd do the stun one. Because I don't want to get stunned. Like, locking down your character in this game is so bad. So, freezing, I was just getting frozen like crazy. I wanted to stop dying to that. Chaos, for chaos damage, which was killing me a lot, might be better after the patch. And then stun immunity as well, might be good. That's it for the gear and pretty much the entire build. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in game. Jacob S. I think it's a nice build. I've cleared pretty much all the content in the game. I actually failed on the pinnacle boss once. I did one of my citadels, and then after searching for hours and hours and couldn't find the other ones, so I decided to buy the other 2 pieces on the currency exchange. The damage on the pinnacle boss was very good, very, very good. I didn't know the mechanic because I went in blind, and there's one mechanic that even with, I think I was overflowed even a little bit, one-shots you. It's not too difficult of a mechanic to do, but if you don't know it's coming, you'll get one shot probably. And I don't want to really farm up my citadels yet. I might start a new build. If you have any suggestions of what ascendancy you want to see, I'll probably just make a random build I haven't seen before, or try to make something up new. So if you have any ascendancies you want to see, just let me know. Post any questions and comments too, and I'll maybe see you guys again.